Hi again. In Chapter 10 of John Karel von Baalen's The Chaos of Cults, he's dealing with Swedenborgianism. The cult of Swedenborgianism announces itself as the New Church, or the Church of the New Jerusalem. For all that, it is not nearly as new as the other cults described in this volume. Its founder lived in Sweden from 1688 and died in London in 1772 rather. Consequently, one of our earliest great theologians, Dr. Charles Hodge of Princeton, took note of Swedenborg in his famed Systematic Theology in 1875. As to the founder, he stands apart from and intellectually miles above the founders of new religions, as Joseph Smith, Mary Baker Eddy, Russell and Rutherford, etc., and the Fillmores, and others to whom the words of Henry Van Dyke apply. Quote, "There are many Americans who have too little respect for special training and too much confidence in their power to solve the problems of philosophy and statesmanship extemporaneously." Unquote. Emanuel Swedenborg was a genius and a scholar of the first dimension who, as a confirmed bachelor, had more time than others to devote to his profound studies and did so unstintedly. Recognized by his government, he was for 30 years the Royal Assessor of Mines, one of the body of men responsible to the government for the mineral wealth of Sweden. He wrote some 33 scientific works on metallurgy, mineralogy, physiology, geology, mathematics, cosmology, and the structure and functions of the human brain. He anticipated the airplane and the submarine. His name would have gone down in history as one of mankind's greatest scientists, but at 59 years of age, he resigned from his government post and began to spend another 25 years investigating the things of the spirit. He then wrote another 30 works, no small pamphlets either, on theology, being firmly convinced that the Lord had called him to revive a dying church. This conviction he had in common with his contemporary, John Wesley, who lived from 1703 to 1791. But the results of the two convictions and inspirations differed widely indeed. Swedenborg's works are chiefly the Arcana Celestia, or Celestia, Heaven and Hell, the True Christian Religion, the Four Doctrines, the Divine Providence, Conjugal Love, miscellaneous theological works. A great intellect, however, together with a deep religious sense, does not make a man right. In Swedenborg, we encounter one more man who, interpolating Scripture in accordance with revelations that came on top of the inspired Scriptures, drifted into rewriting the Scriptures to make them tally with his pantheistic and spiritistic intuitions. And this, for all his intellectual superiority, vast scholarship, and unquestionable integrity, he had in common with the untrained and unscrupulous founders of today's weird American religious cults. It cannot be reiterated strongly enough that divine revelation has terminated with the final book of the New Testament. The Mormon excuse that the curse pronounced in Revelation 22:18 upon those who add to the words of the prophecy of this book merely warns that no chapters are to be added to this particular book, that is, Revelation, whereas new revelations remain to be expected, and that excuse, by the way, is to be rejected as a mere subterfuge. Whatever man must know of God in his saving activity is to be found within the covers of the Bible, and it will be found that all those who have come with additional revelations have added and or subtracted, thus robbing us of the cardinal doctrines of Scripture. This holds of Swedenborg too. When Swedenborg said that he had frequent communications with numerous spirits of the departed, who gave him all sorts of information that was supposed to be first-hand, but in addition to the Scriptures, and when he stated that all the history, symbols, and parables of Scripture have a threefold sense, one for this life, the natural sense, one for the next life, the spiritual sense, and one for the life of angels, the celestial sense, he opened the floodgates to the most fanciful speculation. Swedenborgianism, therefore, has become as much a type of Gnosticism as, for example, Theosophy, and they who reject Swedenborgianism are written off as people who are unable to struggle upward through the dogma of the past. To Swedenborg, the Bible was fully inspired, but this inspiration is upon three levels: for the natural man, man seeking after God; For the spiritual man, men who, like Swedenborg, can live in two worlds at once, or alternatively, and for the celestial spirits, the angels in heaven. By way of illustration, let us turn to one of the Ten Commandments. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. What does it mean? According to the Swedish seer, these words have a natural meaning. With the children of Israel, the Sabbath, because it represented the Lord, was the sanctity of sanctities, the 6 days representing his labors and conflicts with the hells, and the seventh his victory over them and consequent rest. And as that day was a representative of the close of the whole of the Lord's work of redemption, it was holiness itself. End of quote. But in the spiritual sense, this command represents man's reformation and regeneration by the Lord. The 6 days of labor are his warfare against indwelling sin. The seventh day means victory in conjunction with the Lord. While in the highest or celestial sense, the Sabbath means a state of peace that comes of perfect harmony with the divine will. At times, the natural sense is disregarded for the sake of the spiritual, as when Swedenborg said that the Mosaic account of creation, the story of the flood, that of the Tower of Babel, are not literally true, but are the outer garments of imperishable truths. Much more to come. I'll put in a link this time to a series we did called History of Humpty Dumpty, which is about the history of hermeneutics. See you next time.